Okay.
whatever you want. And this is the,
And what I'll do is,
this is the draft. This
right.
is the route.
Oh,
You
okay.
can have that too.
Okay, so this is your original though. It's got the
No.
color on it.
Nope, that's for you.
Oh,
I
okay.
have-
So you Xerox.
And now I'm still working on the booklet I'm gonna give everyone.
Yeesh.
So that's why I needed more.
You
of
should
these.
sell those, Terry. Put a price on them.
All right, well, hopefully that works out for you, Ed.
Yes, I have no problem, but I would like an email saying that I'm officially invited.
All right, I'll
Uh,
talk to John tomorrow. I called him before I came here just to make sure, my draft was okay.
yeah,
And again, that's not sealed in stone yet, so if you want to look it over tonight, if you want any changes, you can call me, or like I said, email me. And I'll ask John to send you an official email.
yeah. Now, do you want a copy of my two maps? So you know, where the sites would be?
I know you have some of these from the past.
Yeah, I know, but, those weren't the map, those are the background maps.
Oh,
Those are the background maps. What I did was a 1776 map and a modern map.
okay. Sure.
And
You think I should make copies at the municipal building, because they're letting you?
I have copies,
Oh, even better.
thanks to the generous library.
If you want to get started, Randy, just let me know and I'll sit down.
Well, no, look at the
Yeah, see, these are the sites that I picked out for the sign,
Oh.
okay? And they're numbered here on the map,
Mm-hmm.
okay? But I thought what might be helpful would be how South Brunswick looked back then. Same sites where they're located on a
That's
map that
cool.
George Washington would have seen. Okay?
We may be doing a dry run of this route. And I would drive John around possibly Thursday or Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
Would you be available?
but what would I do?
We could talk about the signs.
Okay.
Because I don't think we're gonna have time to do it on Saturday. There's just too many things to look at.
Well, it's not a question, see, because it could be a drive-by too, but to give the people an idea of where the signs could go, because some of the signs, there's a general area, there's not one spot. You know, with a lot of these signs, people are thinking, oh, one spot, we'll put it right there. Like that Wawa thing,
No,
but it's not gonna work that way. You gotta negotiate on exactly where you're gonna have.
yeah, well,
Okay, Friday, but again, you gotta tell me, when you.
well, I don't know, would you be up for if we did a dry run? And again, I don't know what John's schedule
Yeah,
is.
in one
but
car, is that how you
Yeah.
wanna do it? Okay,
I would drive.
yeah. Okay, you would drive two old codgers around?
Yes, I would do that.
Get the Bentley ready.
It's just a
Subaru.
It's
Oh, I
just
should
not
sit
for-
on the other side of the table. To make it look like it's a
It's
full.
full.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to get some of those blow up dummies and, put them out on the seats.
We got hats, we had hats.
There's some hats up there.
Oh, yeah, we got some hats.
How's that gonna help though?
Put them on sticks,
Oh.
put them in the chair.
Isn't that the Applegate House?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See that?
See,
Good eye.
I'm learning it. I'm learning. Well, that's cool. I was really interested to see what you put together.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out.
Yeah.
This is only part one, Terry.
They've done a nice job fixing that house up.
Yeah, I saw pictures of it from the '70s, and
Yeah.
it didn't look good. Yeah, you could use that as an example of preservation. I have the picture from the '70s,
Yeah.
and it's not in great shape. And then this picture, this is from the This is 1980 though. Actually, it looks really good there.
And even the Martin Oberman house, they just recently fixed that all up too.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Are we
Okay.
gonna start with the Applegate house?
Yeah. Let's give it a couple minutes. It's just 6:30 on the dot.
Yeah.
And then well, no, actually, we're not starting with. I just like that one because it's such a pretty
Oh, okay, so
photograph.
that's like the cover of a magazine.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the cover.
Oh, and I found all the names of the black families, 1825, 1830. Free black families that had farms in South Brunswick.
Wow.
Found all of them.
Where did you get that? At
That's the first
state
time we've
library
ever
or
known them all.
At the
What?
state library or?
No, Randy and I found the 1830 census on
Wow.
the computer because I can't get it in the state. Rutgers lost it. They can't find it.
Wow.
Princeton didn't have it. The earlier ones before 1830 are either non-existent, burned in the War of 1812 thing
Wow.
in DC, or they never bothered to do it for Jersey. There were some states that weren't in on the first censuses. Who knew? You know,
Yeah,
I had just
probably didn't wanna
assumed
spend the
everybody
money,
was
right?
in it. But it was voluntary, so
Yeah.
some didn't
I think they
participate.
just lost it.
So it doesn't kick in for Jersey till 1830.
Wow.
And
So that was the first
you know,
one in New
I'm
Jersey.
doing 25 years chunks. So I gotta eliminate all the kids that were 5 or younger on the census and just give the family for 1825. But, you know, it's there are thousands of names. And I'm working on it and trying to line up because guess what? In 1830, they only gave the name of the head of the household. They give the names of anybody else, not the
Yeah.
wife, not the kids, okay? And they give age ranges. And here's another quirky thing. The black age range is different than the white age range for free blacks and free whites. So as an example, they would give a category like 14 to 19 for teenagers in a family of whites. They would do it from 12 to 22 for blacks. Just like an arbitrary thing.
Maybe because they didn't really know their age. Is that possible?
I don't know, but still they're putting them in a category.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and again, this is something, I don't know if any research has been done on this. Why are there different age brackets for blacks as opposed to whites?
Good question.
Just weird, weird.
Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, you ready?
We are
Are you
ready.
ready?
We are ready.
What's this person saying? I can't read the chat. I have to look at it here. Okay. All right. So tonight we're doing historical houses of South Brunswick Part 1 because I think there's going to be some more later on, but you know you have to start somewhere. So let's start with now this picture here. Well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. So we'll go over here. Hey, why is this not working? Technical difficulty. Okay.
Oh, dude.
So Davidson Mill, if you take a look at this picture here, it's not really that easily seen from the road. This is a picture that was taken. This picture's from the early 70s. Baker, this picture back then when he was first taking the Historical Society back then. So you can kind of see it from the road and how it looks.
Somebody's eating their elbow.
So this is kind of how it looks from the road. It'll look like that. It's behind fences. You can't get it clear. But it's really nice because if you look at the Davidson Mill house, it's on 17 Riva and it overlooks the mill area where it was. So it has a commanding view. If you were looking back at that house, you would see where the mill was and where the park is right now. So it's a really pretty interesting site. And like I said, you can just drive on Riva Drive and you can just go on Riva Drive and take a look at it. Yeah, and then this is the so this is Ed, you probably know more about this. It was William Cox was the first mill site owner. Do you concur with that? Is that what you find too?
Right, there were several. And I think there were 2 or 3 different Davidsons
Okay.
And let's clarify on the name because it is confusing. Davison is popular at a certain time, and then Davidson with the D is popular at a certain time. And most of the people ended up, I believe, as time went by, with the Davidson with the D. But I'm doing the census now for 1830, and the name is spelled without the D.
Okay.
And so it's really, if you run across a Davison and a Davidson, they're most likely related if you're talking about South Brunswick. Okay, so to clear that up. Now, this house, are you saying that the house was built by Cox?
Yeah, it looks that way from what. Hello. It looks like that's what they found in the Hunter research. Yeah.
Okay, so
The mill site was operated by Cox.
and you're talking about a time period of sometime in the 18th century?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and an interesting thing about this type of house, you see the little windows right under the roof line?
Yeah, like the attic.
Okay,
Almost like an attic.
now, back in the day, that was considered a 2.5-story house
Okay.
and not a 3-story house. And the reason for that is that the government authorities charged more money for a 3-story house than a 2 or 2.5-story
okay.
house. So people purposely built their houses 2.5 high.
So these windows right here, like where the cursor is.
Right.
So you could still see out, but
Right.
you didn't have to pay the extra taxes.
And servants and slaves of the the house slaves and so forth. One of the places they would have their sleeping quarters would be up in the attic.
Okay.
Okay, but this looks like to me an example of what I'm talking about with the 2.5-story.
Okay.
Which is interesting because a lot of people in South Brunswick, the farmers, they were living on the edge, very close to debt and so forth like that. So any little thing would be helpful. And so if you paid taxes on a 2.5-story house instead of a 3-story house, you were ahead of the game.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's some savings there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but it's worth a drive by just to look at it. You can see it from the road, or even Google Maps will take you. You can see it pretty good from there too.
Right.
Now we're at the Headley house, right on Ridge Road.
Okay.
Now we don't have a lot of information on the house, but Headley was a professor, and they actually have a building named after him on the Rutgers campus because he was a state entomologist. So have you seen it?
Oh, I worked there.
You worked
actually.
there, okay.
For a summer as a student at Rutgers, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Chasing mosquitoes around the state.
Yeah.
One at a time.
So there's his house. Let's see, it's right on 362 Ridge. Nice looking house. But there was Headley. Actually, somebody came in from one of the places that had photographs of him, and they said that shared this picture of him with me. So it was interesting to see that. Also, Headley was a big deal in town. This is the South Brunswick Forum that talks about he's talking about the Mosquito Extermination Commission, and it's just a blurb in the South Brunswick paper. But he was well known because this is from the Star Ledger. They actually had comics about him, in the Star Ledger, which I find to be pretty incredible that they would actually have something like that.
They had quite a few.
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll show you which ones.
Yeah.
So there's that one, and to clearing, he's trying to clear the swamp, I guess.
Yeah, it was very instrumental in creating natural areas to get rid of mosquito ditching and some of the salt marshes.
So how did he do it? How did he do it with the?
Well, basically, you see some of these machines here. They basically bring the tidal flow in to allow fish and whatnot to eat the mosquitoes in stagnant areas of the
Oh,
marshes.
so he brought fish in to eat the mosquito. That's
by bringing the tidal flow in.
wow.
Yeah, so he was instrumental in
Well,
And,
that's really ahead of its time. Instead of
Yeah.
bombing with DDT, he had
Yeah.
fishing. I mean, that's very progressive.
Well, he
That's
was
a good
all
thing
over the
now.
state, when
Yeah.
you talk about title and so forth, that doesn't really affect us too much.
No, but it's still interesting now,
Yeah.
his approach.
Yeah,
So yeah, apparently he's well known
he
enough
was
to.
he was a household name back in the day.
That's the phrase, household name.
And we in the poetry workshop we actually read some poems that were about Headley when he was honored at dinners and so forth, and people had these limerick type poems, and things based on song things and so forth. So he was quite popular, and and rightly so, because people were very eager to get rid of the mosquito
That's right.
problem. And he was a Midwesterner.
That's
He
right.
wasn't originally from South Brunswick. And so he had to fit into the culture here. And he got along very well with the farmers, I understand. He was quite popular with the farmers.
They had that whole poem written about him, right? The skeeters, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The skeeter. Yeah, that's what I was referring to. I don't know much about the house.
There's not much on the house. I looked in the Hunter report. There's not a whole lot of information on the house.
Yeah, I remember when I was working at the Slack Carroll House and doing work there, the daughter, one of the owners called to ask us, about the house. They were fixing it up.
Okay.
And they wanted to come and take a look at the Slack Carroll House, but
But-
they were living somewhere out in Michigan, I believe. But the
So
family- there's
who-
still a family connection
there's
there.
that's what I'm saying. There's
Yeah.
some family that was.
Do you know how old the house is?
I don't off the top of my head without looking through this book.
Yeah, we'd have to look at. I don't know. Did I have it noted here? I don't see. No, I don't think so.
Is
must be in
it, that's
book.
the house?
Yep, that's the house right there.
Okay, well, that looks pre-Civil War and could easily be, I don't know, federal time, I don't know. See, that add-on, that porch is added on.
Yeah.
So it's just a square structure. Simple. I don't know if the front porch was added on or not,
It looks like.
but
was.
it looks
Yeah.
like pre-Civil War. At least we could say that.
Definitely from there. We're going to Dayton next. Now, this house, of course, is very nice. If you could drive by it on 417 George's. There's not a lot in the Hunter research, but I found in our files that it was built by Daniel Applegate for his son Wesley, and that's they had some money. I think they were. What was their business? What was the Applegate's business?
Oh, farming.
Is farming? Yeah, one of the other. We'll get there. There's another one
Well,
that's
see,
like a
the
lumber person.
problem with saying that is there were so many Applegates.
Yeah.
There were a ton of Applegates in the Cranberry and in the Monroe and those others, and they had different spellings on the name too.
Yeah.
Applegate and Apple.
Yeah.
APPEL and LE. So, there were a lot of them, a ton of them. I did find stuff on Headley's house.
Okay. To say what yours built.
Um, late 19th century,
Okay.
early 20th century home. So that would be after the Civil War.
Yeah. Well, I know in the survey form it does says it's surrounded by late 19th century.
Construction, 1860.
1860.
Right, the Civil War time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Most of them will be pegged.
Italianate
And
the
around the same
vernacular,
time at the Slack Carroll House.
Right.
and it had to
The
say,
colors on. I zoom. I'm on Zoom.
that's a feature,
And
That's George's for Wallace. That's right, just.
okay, so there is some description of it.
Okay. And then here's the picture from. This is 1890, and it doesn't look like a picture. It kind of looks like a painting, but it's a very old picture. And you can see all the architectural detail up on the top there. It's really pretty. Let's see. Does the house now have that? See, that you could tell. This is the house as it looks recently. I think this picture is from 1980. And then if you look back here at this one, it looks like it was more ornate then. It has the filament things hanging down. So I mean, it's the same structure, but they had some more fancy things on there. I don't know what you call those.
The style,
architectural, yeah.
according to the research here, is a vernacular Queen Anne.
Oh, that's Queen Anne. Okay.
Right, and construction was around 1870. So you're right after the Civil War, and you have a Queen Anne architectural style.
Okay.
And see
Yeah.
the fancy filigree around the windows
That's
and all that?
Yeah, filigree. That's the
Yeah,
word.
right. The way that that area comes out like that, that's a distinguishing characteristic of the house. And you see the arch over each window, and you see the shutters. Oh, okay, so that is
Right in here.
the most interesting part of the house.
Did you see how it looked though in the old picture?
Yeah,
This
turn
one?
it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, they kept the shutters with the curve at the top, but they didn't have any porch thing or anything like that. But you see, there's filigree there and so forth, so that's part of the Queen Anne thing. Cool.
Yeah. Very.
A little tidbit of information
Uh-huh.
about the Applegate House. The president of the Grange actually lived in that building.
Really?
That was his house. He was also instrumental in building or getting started the State Ag Museum on the Cook campus,
Oh.
which unfortunately isn't getting any state funding and hasn't for the last 4 or 5,
What was
6
his
years.
name? What was
I can't remember, but I do know that he lived in that
the
house.
Kruger?
Cruiser?
No.
Yeah.
The guy who did the agriculture museum?
Yes.
Yeah, it's something with a K.
Raven Kruger.
Kruger, yeah.
He was
Yeah.
also the president of Pioneer Grange, and he was instrumental in starting the Ag Museum.
Oh, okay.
So he actually lived in that house
That's the
for a number of
connection.
years.
That's the connection between the.
Interesting. On George's Road.
Yes.
Yep, right on
George's Road.
George's.
Yeah. There's some things under significance that are interesting. In the area, this Applegate House is one of the few that is an asymmetrical architectural design. You see the difference over there and the two.
It's not like a Seminole Hall Colonial.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like the Headley House. It's interesting you showed the two. Headley House is a box. And look at this. A lot more ornate, a lot fancier,
Yeah.
okay?
Probably had more money
And
to
so
spend.
that's
Yeah,
what
right.
makes this stand out and worth being on the tour.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
It's one of the best ones. So now we have the McDowell House, and this was it was on the maps back then, but he actually bought the Road Hall Tavern. Then so Williamson owned that, so he was pretty influential in town. The other thing we can say about the McDowell House, the McDowell name is Dean's would have been. They had a contest back in the day. The railroad wanted to have everyone in the town come up with a name, whether it be McDowell or Dean. So they had a contest, and McDowell won because but the company, the railroads thought that that's not going to work it's too long of a name to put on there. So they just named the town Dean's,
Right.
and that's how Dean's got its name.
Yeah. And then something else that you might want to hear, Cindy, Marissa, is Donna Underwood.
Yeah, I remember.
Mershon is related to the McDowell family.
Okay.
She's the one I want you to talk to at some point as it relates to the tombstone that was found up by Herman. Industrial
Oh,
Park.
okay. Okay.
Right.
All
But
right.
she's
good.
related to the McDowell family.
All right, we'll have to
Yeah.
talk about that.
Now, the original McDowell worked at the copper mine over
Over
near
by the canal.
yeah, in
Okay.
Brickstown. And he went into farming after working maybe 10, 15 years at the mine. And he did quite well because that was instrumental in setting up what became Road Hall. And so he's has a very colorful past, and then the McDowells that follow in the succeeding generations. And it's one of the largest families in South Brunswick. They did have slaves, and some of the Applegates had slaves, but I don't think the Applegates that we saw the house there, I don't think they had slaves. Then Headley did not have any slaves because that was a later time.
Yeah.
So this is the first one where you're looking at a house that housed not only free whites, but also had slaves.
Right. See, I have another shot here. Oh, okay. Now we're at the Culver
That's
House.
the home of the Adorable Dews.
The one. Oh.
Yeah, that business is there.
So it's now. It was a dog grooming place. You said, right?
Well, it's a private home, but it's also.
The Culver House?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the McDowell house.
Oh, the McDowell
McDowell.
House.
Yeah.
McDowell House. Okay. So, yeah, Culvers were a big. Strangely enough, though, this is on Ridge Road, but they named Culver Road after the family. But this house is on Ridge. Yeah, it's one of the most pretty influential.
Isn't it across the street from the Y, the old Y?
I don't know. I have to look on. I know it's on Ridge, but I'd have to
Pretty
actually.
sure that's the one on Culver.
No, that's not the Culver House.
I don't.
Okay.
No. I think it is
It
the
says
Culver house.
784 Ridge here.
That might
And
be a mistake because.
Even in the Hunter report, huh? Okay.
no, it's different. It's different. The picture here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's the triangle up on the above the second floor, the roof thing.
So I wonder which one
They
this
took it
is.
off.
That map I gave you for the tour, do you still have it?
No, I stored that away.
Oh, okay. I'm
This
pretty
looks-
sure that's the house that's across from the Y, the old Y, which is now a Hindu temple / community.
But the house is still there, but
Yes.
it's just got a different name. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. We'll have to
So-
find out which one.
so it is on Culver Road.
It is on Culver.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so this is a different one then.
It's a different Culver house.
Yeah, this one says it was built around 1850,
That's
So-
the one. Yeah.
just pre-Civil War.
But it's not the one that's up there on the screen. Okay.
It's not the one. Well, you can imagine what this one looks like. It has the 5 windows across the second floor. It has the porch, right? But it has this, what would they call it? A gable on the roof line.
Okay. Okay. So let's see what else we have here.
So it is different.
So next one is the Hubbard House, and this is a really beautiful house right on George's.
Yes.
And this person was a lumber merchant. When I looked on, this is in the Hunter report that talked about it. But yeah, this is a really beautiful house right there on George's. And there's some other things I'll show you too. So this actually, I looked in the South Brunswick Post, and they had somebody's recounting of what it was like to live there. And she said that she remembers when she was little that she used to get picked up by a horse and buggy. This is Bessie Mae Hubbard, yeah. And she remembers being picked up by a horse and buggy and being taken to church along with her sister, Lita, I guess her name. And inside, right there, that shows, it's just script writing. I went over to take a picture, and the people who own the house are nice enough to, they showed me they invited me inside. I took a look around, and they had, this was in the house when they bought it. There's probably been many owners over the years, but as of the 80s, I think one of the Hubbards was still connected to it somehow. But it was the way the wedding looked. They got married. The daughters got married there in 1923, Yeah. Oh no, her parents I guess got married. I'm sorry. And then the daughters lived there until they were married. But these are some pictures from inside. That's the way the house looked
Wow.
inside the Hubbard house on the wedding
That's a cool
day.
picture.
Wow.
Yeah, and they shared that with me. It was really nice of them to have to share that because now we see what the inside looked like back in 1923. And then there's all the streamers and everything getting ready for the wedding. You can see the piano over here and all the beautiful plants over here. So the Hubbard house is, I think, one of the most. It's pretty well preserved. I
It
mean, it's in
is.
good shape.
Yeah, and we met the new owners at one of the pumpkin lightings in Dayton. And,
The current owners,
and
yeah.
they didn't even know the history about the house until we were able to provide the information from the
Oh, great.
hunter reports.
Great.
They were really appreciative of that.
Yeah, and well, they had these things from the house. They had the inscription there and
Yeah.
and the photograph. So yeah,
That
it
was
was
pretty
nice.
cool.
Yeah, this house goes back to the Civil War, says circa 1860. And can I read the description?
Sure.
Yeah. It was built in two sections. If you can go back to the picture that shows the front of the house. Right.
Yeah.
Two sections. Okay, the northern upright section, most likely the original portion of the house, is topped by a front gable roof and is fronted by an open porch with that, which is supported by square Italianate columns. Okay, that front area right there. And with curved brackets. To the east is a lower side gable section that is fronted by an enclosed porch with continuous fenestration. Now, that has to do with windows. From the ridge of this roof rises a brick chimney stack. The entire building has been unified by the application of Italianate decorative elements. And a lot of these old South Brunswick houses have this Italianate flair to them. And so that's a big deal as you go from house to house. You see that an awful lot. And let's see what else we got here. Nothing too important. Supposedly the entryway door is a big deal. Double leaf wood and glass units in it. So the front door is a big deal for this house. And it has a brick foundation.
Okay.
Randy, I just wanted to go back to the Culvert house. This is from the Hunter report. You can see it is on Culvert Road. Now, unless there's another Culvert house out there.
It's similar looking, but
You
yeah, I
can see
guess.
the location on the
Oh,
reverse
yeah.
side. It is on Culvert Road.
Yeah, well, if
Yeah.
it's in a different location. it's
Yeah,
a
we'll have to
different
take a
house.
look at that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
so
the right picture for
I'm
it.
not sure which one you're talking about on Ridge Road, if that.
Right, well,
Yeah.
Culver
it's
was one
another
of those
Culver, yeah.
families that had more than one Culver
Yeah.
family in the South Brunswick.
But even if it's on Ridge Road, it should be in Monmouth Junction, and I don't even recognize that.
No, I'll take a look.
So
We'll take.
that's why I'm thinking it's this one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
We'll revisit that one. Okay, now we have the Slack Carroll house. So there's a ton of information up here on the screen, but Ed, did you want to talk about the architectural details, or are we going to talk about who lived there?
I can, a little bit.
Yeah, and then I'll go into what we have on Slack and Carroll.
Okay. Built around 1867, 1869. The deeds sort of support 1869. So you're talking about right at the end of the Civil War. Architecturally, the doctor's house may have been built on an earlier foundation. The attached office building may be an older building moved to the site to serve as the doctor's office and home hospital. So this is like taking two architectural pieces and putting them together. But this will need historic architectural research. So somebody has to do that research. The house appears on the map circa 1870, and the first physician was known to have helped organize a local church in 1867. That would be the Dayton Presbyterian.
Almost right next door, right? There
Right,
it is. We
right.
can see it in the picture.
Dr.
Yeah.
Slack was
Yeah.
involved with starting the.
In the late
church.
1880s, the Queen Anne details were added to the porch and oak flooring added to the first floor and hallways. So the house is Italianate with Queen Anne details. And again, so that's a thing that cropped up again and again. Okay, and then I have information about later on and so forth. But that's the basic stuff on it.
Okay. And then here have that Slack. He was born in Hightstown, and he was a telegraph operator before going to medical school. So there's a picture of him standing outside of his tent, I guess during the Civil War. Do you know anything about that picture, Terry?
No, other than he was a surgeon in the Navy.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
I don't know specifically why he's posed, in front of that tent there, other than.
Yeah.
We were able to have that at the Slack Carroll House for many years.
It's a good picture.
It is a good picture of him.
And the next person was Edgar Carroll. So he was around. I mean, there are people that remember him in the 1970s. Abe Dobin wrote a book. The former mayor of South Brunswick wrote a book about South Brunswick called Fertile Fields, and he has a section of it where he talks about being visited. I guess he did house calls back then by Edgar Carroll, and he was kind of stern, but he remembers being a little bit afraid of him, but as a good guy. But the one thing I like to point out is Dr. Carroll, when he was kind of on his deathbed, he called his wife in and made her promise to mark all the bills as accounts receivable. So he wrote off any kind of bills that people had that they were owed to him before he passed. So I thought that was a really nice thing.
Yeah, he
I wonder-
practiced for 45 years in the
40
community.
45 years?
Yes,
Wow. So wow, that's amazing.
it is amazing.
It's not good for his wife. She lost out on all the money he didn't collect.
See, I guess he's like smoking a cigar there,
Yeah,
right?
that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
That's the way he's holding it. Like a dandy.
Yeah, he's very dapper with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That hat, that beard. And the next one is the Weatherall Mount House. Now, I have some things up there, but I'm sure you can expand on that, right?
I think we can expand on the Weatheralls easily. You notice again, this is your box type house with the 5 second-story windows across.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a common indicator for these houses. This would predate 1800. But this is not the main Weatherall house.
So when they say 1863, you think that's just when one of the additions was put on?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, this had to be something early on. They say construction site is 1823,
Yeah, that's what it said.
and that's about the time that John Weatherall is cashing it in.
Oh, yeah.
It's over for him. But you got to keep in mind that the Weatherall property was over 1,600 acres and took in an awful lot of Pigeon Swamp and stretched all the way down to Cranberry and stretched all the way down to Jamesburg.
Okay.
And it bordered on, this is an interesting situation. It bordered on the Indian settlement that Brainerd set up.
Okay.
Which
In
is
Cranberry.
well, more associated with Jamesburg. You know where
Okay.
Thompson Park is?
Yeah.
And if you went north of there, one of the creeks there, and I forget the name of the creek, that's where they had the Indian settlement. Where Brainerd was trying to Christianize the Indians. And they had several hundred there at one time, but that was bordering the Weatherall plantation. And so I'm sure there was some commerce between the two, but there's not anything written about it. But it would be
Brainerd has a house in
interesting.
Cranberry that they preserved in his, there's a house named after him.
Yeah,
Cranberry.
yeah. They don't know exactly, they don't have the exact location of that the settlement, but they have a guess as to where it was. And because the Indians were all removed from there and settled down in South Jersey,
Okay.
near McGuire Air Force Base, there was an Indian thing that the government set up down there. And a lot of the Lenape ended up there that were at Brainerd Settlement. And Brainerd didn't last that long at it, and I think his brother or his son took it over for a while, but then it died out. But anyway, talking about this, it's hard for me to figure out exactly how this house was used on the Wetherill plantation. I have a feeling that since it wasn't the main house, and they don't know exactly where the main house was, this could be an overseer's house. It could be one of his son's houses. There are some possibilities for it.
You mean his son? You mean Vince?
He had 3 sons.
Okay, so Vincent.
He had John Jr., and he was the older, and then there was Vincent. But Vincent was captured by the British and died in Sugar House. You know, the ships where they kept the captives in the Revolutionary War. And I've told the authorities in South Brunswick that they should name something in honor of Vincent Wetherill, because he's the first military hero from South Brunswick. So far, that's fallen on deaf ears. They say there's already a Vincent Street or road or something, and they have a Wetherill thing going on near where this house is, Wetherill Road or
Whether Way, but it's spelled totally
Wetherill
different.
Way.
But that was
Yeah.
from the development that did that, right?
Yes, the
Is that how
development
they
did that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
They
Yeah.
carved out this,
Yeah.
this,
But
So it
they
wasn't
have,
the township then, though.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
it's
have
just
no
the development.
knowledge or sensitivity to the Wetherill name
yeah.
and the history behind it, and Vincent Wetherill. So somebody's got to do something with Vincent Wetherill, because he's the first military hero of our town,
That's a good point.
township.
If you
Yeah.
lived there for a while, maybe someplace on that property.
Yeah, so, yeah, and so this house could have been for one of the sons. And then John Wetherill was a widower, and he married late in life and had another son whom he called Vincent. And that Vincent was around to inherit this and that.
He had another son.
He had
That he-
another son, and
that
he
he called
named him
Vincent?
Vincent because the first Vincent had
Uh,
died in the Revolutionary War.
Oh, okay. So
So
that's
there's 2 Vincents.
and then Vincent's widow is Sarah. And then
Right,
she
and
married
there
Mal,
was
yeah.
a family in South Brunswick that took the young Vincent in as a ward till he became of age. Because when John Wetherill died, the second Vincent was not old enough to assume, what had to be done with the plantation and all
okay.
that.
Okay, so that
And we have to say that this house, if it's going to stand for the Wetherill family, the Wetherill family is the most famous family to come from South Brunswick.
right.
Hands down, it's the most famous. So we honor the Wetherill family with this house. The unfortunate thing is, it's not open to the public.
Well, it's under renovations. but-
For how long?
Well, I think it's been going on for about 3 or 4 years now, but it has been in the past open to the public.
Yes.
Yes, but they're still under construction.
And guess what's coming up? 2026.
Well, hopefully. They did open
And
it up for the historic
For the
scavenger
hunt,
hunt,
yeah.
even though it was somewhat in disarray and.
so we can use that as a selling point. If you open it up for the scavenger hunt, you can open it up for 2026. Because
Sure they will, as
I'm
long as it's
I'm
safe.
really hot about it, that if 2026 comes around and this house is not open up, I'm gonna be very angry. And a lot of other people should be very angry too.
Ed, this is Paul. I just wanted to mention that this house was lived in by a physician and who left the house in 1940.
Right. Yes, that was, well, it's the Wetherell Mount House. So you're talking about the Mount family?
I don't know their names, but I found coinage all with the date 1940.
Right.
Okay. What did you find?
Coins.
Coins?
Coins, yeah. And, yeah, Paul, the Mount family took it over from the Wetherells, but I don't know if the Mounts were around in 1940. That might, and the doctor you're talking about, that might be after the Mounts. I'm not sure.
Right, there used to be a tree in front of the house where the coins were under the tree, probably because a child was playing with the mother's jewelry and coins, and they left them there until I came along.
That child should have been beaten.
Owned by Archie Marchand, who's a local farmer in the
Okay.
area before it
Yeah.
was sold to a developer.
I think I
And then
saw
that
that.
house was rented to a professor, who did work on black walnuts,
That could be
that
the
lived next to the
doctor.
tavern. And this was he wasn't a doctor, a medical
Oh.
doctor, but he was a professor at
Yeah,
Rutgers.
but he would have a doctorate. Paul, was the guy a doctor, a real medical doctor?
I don't know.
Because it could be Dr. So-and-so and he was a professor in college.
I can't remember the name of the,
Okay, we need to research that.
but anyway, he rented from the Marchand family. It wasn't his house.
Right,
But he rented from, the farmer that
yeah.
farmed in the area.
Yeah, I saw the Marchand name mentioned in the ownership.
Yeah.
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 So, and then we have the corn crib here. That's not there anymore. Terry, that's not there anymore, right?
It actually is.
It's there?
It's
Okay.
still there, but it doesn't look like that anymore.
Oh, okay. So,
Is there any corn in
I don't know,
there?
but it's,
Well, that's
It
a
has
tourist
fallen-
site right
yeah, it
there.
has fallen apart.
Get your picture taken in front of the corn crib.
so Ed, that's a natural stopping point. The next one would be going into Dean's. So do you want to take a little
Sentimental
trip into
journey.
Dean's, or we want to do two for Dean's, and then we'll conclude tonight's.
Okay, are you doing Innisfree?
Yeah, that's first. There we go.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So in back of the house was Dean's Pond, and there was a mill back there too. So this is really significant. You know, if you go on Dean's Pond Lane, you might, I don't know what's over there. You can see some stones. It looks like it might have been part of a mill. I'm not sure what it is, but it's a really interesting road to go on Dean's Pond Lane. It's a 1-lane road. It's really interesting. It's worth it if you live in the town just to take a ride back there, just to see it.
Yeah, that's where the cemetery is.
Oh yeah, on the other side. Right. So yeah. Now this one, did you want to say anything about these, or you
I
searching for
did
some
if I
stuff?
could find what I'm looking for.
Okay,
but
we're looking
I don't know.
for some notes here.
Keep talking, Randy.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, this is a really it's right. Dean's Pond Lane is if you're coming from the library here on, and then if you turn on George's, it's just on Dean's Pond Lane is just past this house, I believe. And like I said, it's a dirt road, and it comes all the way out. It goes all the way out to Major Road, but it's a very interesting drive. I recommend people taking it just to see what it's like while it's still there. It's unpaved. You actually go into the northeast corridor, and you can see the pond too when you go through. When you go under the corridor, under the train tracks, you come up on the other side. You can see where Dean's Pond once was. I mean, right now it's just an area with weeds in it because the dam broke. I guess sometime in the 70s, from what I can understand, from what I can piece together, it broke in the 70s. But people used to ice skate on there in the winter time, and it was a place where the community went. But yeah, if you definitely take a ride down that road, Dean's Pond Lane. Yeah, and It's one lane on some of it, so you have to be careful.
Back
Yes.
like 40 years ago, Jersey Transit was gonna put a train station right there. And part of the way they were gonna do it was they didn't have to build a bridge or a tunnel underneath the tracks. They were gonna use that old stone arch bridge that goes under the tracks. That fell apart like 1990 maybe, but that's what they were gonna do way back.
Okay. Yeah, I know they were talking about making a station there.
That's where the station was gonna be, because they wouldn't have to build a bridge or a tunnel, because that underpass was already there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty small underpass.
It was only gonna be pedestrian.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes
So
sense.
you'd park on one side or the other, you couldn't drive through, and then pedestrians could walk underneath to get from one side of the plot to the other. That was the plan. Never happened, obviously.
Because the first time I drove through, I was thinking, should I be doing this?
Yeah.
There was water there, and I don't know. It seemed like something that might not be safe, but it is though.
Yeah, remember it was blocked off halfway up, like the one that went up to
Yeah.
Route 1?
Yeah, one of
And then
the.
there's the other one that goes to Major Road, from George's Road to Major Road.
Yeah, there's Dean Pond's
But
Lane.
they have it fenced off there.
Yeah, there's east and west. You can also hit Dean's Pond Lane off of Route 1 too. But it dead ends, like Ed was saying, it dead ends in the woods there.
And
But
there was that big Metroplex complex they were gonna develop a long time ago, but now there's a new developer in there apparently that's
Yeah.
gonna build a lot of houses, like towards the Route 1 side.
Oh, towards around one side, not
Yeah.
towards Major Road.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, I think it's gonna connect Route 1 to Major, but not on the other side of the railroad tracks. The
okay.
side that's closest to George's Road.
So have they started, or are they?
I don't know, I know they were in the planning stages and going for approvals before the township, but I don't know all the
Okay.
details, yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna change the area.
Yeah. It will.
One of the things about the Dean House, when you talk about status and culture, and highfalutin folks and all that, you don't really think of South Brunswick Township in the beginning.
Mhm.
But it's interesting that Aaron Dean gave a nickname to his house. And this is a sign of making it. This is a high status thing. And he called his house Innisfree.
Yeah. What does that mean?
It's after a Yeats poem.
Okay, so it's Cyrus.
And I just happen to have a takeoff on the Yeats poem.
Okay.
Okay, and so in the poem, it describes this setting where this house is. So let me read it to you.
Okay.
I will arise and venture forth to find a place called Innisfree, a large manse the Deans built there, of bluestone and fir wood and 13 rooms. Apple trees will I find there, plus a flower feast for the honeybee, and I'll linger long in a welcoming glade. I shall find sought out peace there, a peace along George's Road that will come and go, starting at the foot of morning, lasting all the while the cricket sings, beyond midnight's passing glimmer, and the moon casts purple glow, till the dawn's cloud of pigeon wings. I will arise and venture forth, for always, night and day there, I'll feast on the southward's rustic sounds, with birds piping by the mill and pond, as I imagine steps to cemetery grounds, and deep into the swamp woods near, for in my heart the call to go resounds.
Thanks, Ed.
And so what I did, I took Yeats's poem and adapted it to South Brunswick. And thanks to Aaron Dean and Innisfree,
Right. The
bringing
connection.
culture to South
There you
Brunswick.
go.
We need as much culture as we could get.
That's an interesting.
Glad you liked it.
So we'll do one more in Dean's, and this is the Hamill house. It looks like that now. There's a last time I looked, there was a violin, not a luthier, but there was giving violin lessons. What is it they do there? I think it's like a music store.
I think they were
Music
repairing them,
and-
but I don't believe they're there anymore.
Oh, they're not-
I
they're not
think
there.
there's like a new owner that they renovated the front. They put like a retaining wall in
Oh,
the
okay.
front. And, but they kind of kept the buildings sort of the same.
So
I
that's
think
pretty
there's
recent.
I think there's new stores in there.
Oh yeah, because that's pretty recent. Because that wasn't too long ago when I called them and then
Yes.
found out it was something with violins.
Yeah, I think there was a change in ownership.
Okay, okay. So this was once the tax collector. I don't know how do you say that last name, Ed? John Shu?
I don't know.
I'm gonna say John Shu. So people actually,
Scooch?
yeah, I don't know, but people actually remember coming here to pay their taxes at this house rather than sending them in. You know, they would just walk it over rather than sending it through the mail. But before that, it was Gillian's Groceries, and it was at Dean's Post Office. So this is the way it looked prior to that. So it was a grocery
Oh,
store and a
okay.
post
That's
office.
a cool picture.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting picture, and I didn't know when I first saw the picture. I don't know if it was from a postcard or not, but it took me a while to connect it to what that really was.
Yeah, it's great.
So yeah, this is the way it looked back then.
Yeah.
And that's our little short tour of Dean's, and that's the end of part one for the historical houses of South Brunswick. Now, does anybody have any questions out there? Anybody have any questions here?
That house I'm trying to figure out whether it was added on to. You know, like maybe the larger one was a very narrow house that stood alone, and then they added on. You see where the grocery part is?
Yeah,
Certainly
maybe.
looks
Yeah.
like
I'm
it.
wondering.
Let's see if this one gives it better. Yeah, you know, this is a different angle.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised. if
See,
they-
the thing that's weird about that big window in the front that's between the two doors,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
it looks like
Yeah, that's true.
that was something that was put there later on.
Yeah, because you have this door here and that one there. So yeah, it looks like it was added. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll have to look at Hunter and see what they say. But yeah, it does look like two distinct buildings.
Because a lot of these houses started out real small, and then they added on one side, and then the other side, and the back, and so forth, as the families grew. I'm just a guessing on it.
No, it seems plausible. We'll have to look at see what Hunter says on that one.
Yeah. Well, I think overall, you have to say that there are some very interesting houses in South Brunswick
Mhm.
Township,
It's true.
worthy enough to have a house tour. And luckily, enough of them are being preserved to give you a sense of history.
Yeah.
Because, you know, ever since Kendall Park came in, the culture of the township changed dramatically. And the architecture of Kendall Park is radically different from the architecture of the old sections of South Brunswick.
Right.
So you have this contrast, and when you had that change, so when you get from the late 1950s, early 1960s, that's when the big change came. And that's when we went from a farming community with a few stately houses scattered here and there to this condensed area to create a bedroom community for commuters who were journeying out of the area to work and then coming back to eat and sleep. And it took a while for the township to catch up with that culture change. And you'll notice that we didn't get a high school until Kendall Park came along.
Right.
We didn't get
A library.
a library until Kendall Park came along.
Right.
And so there's these things that make for a tremendous culture change. And there was resistance to this in the very beginning. And they gave Kendall a hard time on the number of houses he was allowed to build. And he had plans for probably twice as many houses that were built. And you can imagine what South Brunswick would have looked like if Kendall Park was twice as large as it is. And then the next big culture change would be the warehouses.
Yeah,
And
right.
the warehouses starting to encroach on farmland and farmhouses and so forth. So we've gone through 3 stages. We've gone through the rural agricultural, we've gone through this commuter bedroom community thing, and now we have this encroachment of the warehouses. Okay, and we have a lot of examples of all 3. Okay, and that's South Brunswick Township today. Those 3 main things.
Randy, I wanted to go back to, it's Dr. Sprague, and it's spelled Sprague.
For the Wetherill House?
Right, he rented that,
Okay.
Okay.
but he eventually moved to the house next to the tavern in Deaver.
Okay.
Okay, Paul, did you hear that? Dr. Sprague.
Right, I'm part of the city slickers that took over the town.
That's right, you
You're
are.
not alone.
And you're doing a good job, too.
Damn right.
Onward and upward, Excelsior.
So that's it for part 1. That's
Good
it.
show.
All right, yeah, we
Stay-
touched a lot of bases.
And stay tuned for next month's presentation. And I'll put out an email for that. And yeah.
Right,
Nick.
and
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks for
the
joining
third one is
us.
gonna be famous dog houses of South Brunswick, isn't it?
Yeah, that's later in the year. All right, so if anybody has any questions, you can either text us or email us, and that's it for tonight. So have a good night.
Good night.
Right.
Hey,
Okay,
Do we have
perfect.
to
We're
Huh?
still looking for,
You're getting
One
so
more
good at
house.
this, Randy. That's
Okay.
on
yeah, that's
cannon.
perfect timing.
That's all.
I'm still looking for the left